Alright guys, hopefully you can make this out. I'm having a hard time seeing on the screen. What we have here is my Petzl Tika XP headlamp. Now this has got a Luxeon bulb, or rather a Luxeon LED in it, and what we're going to do is we're going to replace the Luxeon with this fancy Cree XML. Now this is it on high, and you can see that that's about how bright it is. I think the package said it was good for 45 lumens, but that's 45 lumens in this boost mode. Turn off the light a little bit. Maybe that's a little better. Hopefully you can hear me. I know the audio is going to be all sucky through this. So anyway, let's pop this open. First step is we just rotate the back and open up the battery door. That just comes off just like that. And it's got 3 AA batteries. Now I've already had this apart just to make sure I know what I'm doing. So I only put 1 screw back in. The other 2 screws would go right in there. And it does take a Torx driver. And then we need something to pry the battery tray. Get that out of there. Alright, and on the back of the battery tray we have all of the electronics. I'll set all of this aside. Now what we have here is the circuit board, the switches. Here's the lens that just pops out. Then there's this sort of black plastic retaining ring that also just pops out. And the LED star fits right on the back, slides into some little grooves, and there we go. The star with the LED, and as you can see, it's just a direct replacement. So we're going to heat up the soldering iron. We're going to remove the solder from, or remove the wire from this star by just desoldering the connection, and then soldering our XML star on. Now the cool thing about the stars, and let me zoom in, hopefully we can see that. The cool thing about the stars is they're labeled positive and negative. So we know that these with the little pluses is positive, and with the little negative or minus sign is negative. And the XML is the same way. These 2 pins, or solder pads, are positive, and these 2 are negative. So when it's all said and done, it'll sit in the same exact spot, and the wires will be lined up exactly where they were before. Okay, so I'm going to clear my area a little bit, get my soldering iron heated up, and we'll come back. I'll show you the unsoldering and reattaching some wires. Okay, so we're back. Soldering iron is heated up, and the way you tell if it's hot enough, you just touch a little bit of solder to it, and it'll melt right away. That's hot enough. I've made a note. The red wire is positive, the orange wire is negative. Here we go. All I'm going to do is just grab the star and apply a little heat to the solder and move the wire. We'll do that over on this side and remove the wire. There we go. 1 star free, and this has many points, so even if you screw up on 2 of them, you still have 2 positive and 2 negative that you can use later. Well, I'm going to save this, and we're going to do something with this later on. Now, it does have this goo on the bottom, so you don't want to set it down just anywhere. So I'm going to set it right here on my note. Alright, so let's do a little prep work before we go much further. Now I could actually change the wires if I wanted to, but I really don't care. So I'm going to take some of this Arctic Alumina. This is just like a thermal compound, same that you would have in your computer underneath your processor. I'm going to replace what's stuck on the back of that star. Okay, so we take our XML, and it's the same process but backwards. So the orange goes to the negative, and that'll get stuck onto the negative. Now the way we do this is we take some solder, and we get the tip of our soldering with a little glob of solder on it. And we take our wire, and we just apply the wire right to the pad. And it'll be the same with the positive to the positive pad. Just make sure we can get it all lined up nice and neat. A little bit of solder on the tip. Kind of helps to have a third hand here. Alright, there we go. That is soldered back down. Not the prettiest soldering job, but I think it will work. So we'll kind of maneuver that back into where it should be. We'll put this protective cap back on, or rather this cap that makes everything stay put. There we go. And we'll pop the lens on. Now before I put everything back, we're just going to put the batteries in just to make sure that it works. I'd hate to get everything assembled and find out that one of my solder connections was bad. There we go, and it lights up. Okay, so pull the batteries out. Turn off my soldering iron. And let's put this guy back in the housing. So it just drops into place. Grab my Torx driver. And we will put the, drop them all over, we'll put the screws back in the holes. And snug it. So when I built that, the UV LED flashlight in the last video, the soldering is basically the same. All you're doing is soldering onto pads on the star, and then running the wire into the driver board. This one here we didn't have to solder onto the driver board, but I think it's all relatively the same. And we'll put that battery cover back on. Okay, so there's the headlamp, and you would never know that it's different. But let's look at, that's a significant increase in light. There's boost. We're now probably looking at, 100 lumens, give or take, versus the 45 before with this Luxion. So there we go. Hopefully you found this to be educational and inspiring enough. Maybe upgrade some of your older LED equipment. Replacing a star and a flashlight is much the same. You just unsolder the old star, put the new one in, and solder back to it. Alright guys, any questions or comments, leave me a message down below. Have a good night.